Hi, my name's Aaron, and I'm just introducing my channel on YouTube called Anvil Tech. The channel's going to be concerning 3 restoration projects that I've currently got on the go at the moment. But before we cover that, I want to thank someone who's sort of got me back into doing things again. And his name's Matt Green. He has a channel on YouTube. He's a big Mini fan, so if you're interested in Minis, it's well worth checking out his videos. Currently he's got a video restoring a Mark 1 1964 Mini. I think there's about 90 episodes of that so far, so there's a lot to catch up on with that if you're interested. He's also doing a 4-wheel drive racing car Mini, which is essentially a mini old style mini body grafted onto a modified Subaru Impreza chassis. So he's got a lot of work there, and I think there's about 7 episodes of that so far, so it's well worth a catch up. Back to what projects I have. I'll introduce you to the first project in a minute because that's actually behind the camera, so you can't see it. I think I've done what a lot of people do with car restorations. It is a bit of an addiction. I guess it's like gambling, if you're into gambling, of course. You buy one, you start it, you sort of get a feel for it, and then another one comes up on eBay, you buy another one, as my wife behind the camera knows, and then a third one comes along. So I've had to obviously stop at 3. They do become a bit of addiction, but also, you know, life itself can also get in the way of projects because they are a commitment. Like a wife for children and family, that's also a commitment. So they do take a bit of time. And what can happen is, like with me, with work and family and that, you can sort of get a little bit sort of drawn away from them, and they sort of don't lose their importance. But obviously there are other things in life that are more important. You need to tend to first. So the videos I'm doing will be covering the 3 restoration projects I have, and in a minute I'll obviously introduce you to the project that's here, which is the first one I bought, and that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to introduce you to the projects in order of purchase. So we'll look at the project I bought first in a moment. So this is project number 1. This is my 1968 Jaguar 340 Mark II. I bought this car in 2010. It was an eBay purchase. I didn't view the car, but I did do a lot of research first to know what I was getting myself in for, because they do, or this particular one does require a lot of work because they do rust very, very badly. What I'll do is I'll take us into the workshop first. A little bit more about the car. It came from Somerset. The previous owner fortunately delivered it for me, which was good of him. At some point in its life, it did have a light restoration, although it wasn't a particularly good one. A lot of the repairs were patch panels and a lot of filler on this side, which was obviously some of it I've already removed, all the bad panels that were there. It was on the road in 1989. The tax disc did indicate that. I believe the reason probably it came off the road, well, one of them was probably because of all the rust in the car. It probably wasn't particularly safe anymore, and also the head went on the engine. The engine is seized, and there's also a head gasket kit in the boot, which came with the car. And I've also had a look down the bores, and they're not particularly good. They're quite badly rusted. So yeah, that's another job, but obviously that's a bit further down the line. Just to show you some of the repairs I've already had to do. Let me just come down in here. Just where I'm pointing the torch, so I can magnify it a little more. This is called a reinforcing channel, which holds the rear axle, or the leaf spring for the rear axle. This was rotted. This needed to be replaced. So did the structure above it that links it here to the back of the car. Also this item here with the 2 perforations, the 2 holes in it, and this plate here on the box section is the jacking point. That was non-existent. Whoever did the restoration before didn't bother to replace it. This is the inner sill, which you can see along there. Had to replace that as well because pretty much 1/3 of that from the bottom up was gone. and what was there was patch panel repairs, and it wasn't particularly good. In here, this is the seat base, the rear seat base. This panel here, the edge of it, and this hole here where the loom for the wiring goes, this was pretty much non-existent. It was there, but it was like Swiss cheese. It wasn't usable. Come forwards. Excuse my cameramanship. Where I'm shining the torch now, this is the front of the seat base, and all this here had thinned out and was quite bad, so this had to be replaced. The little bumps in the floor there, those are they're welds that are for the top of the reinforcer, and there's some plug welds there as well. And then if we look here, sorry about that. These the bottom of the B post here, a lot of this was very, very badly rotten, and I've had to remake. As far as I know, you can't buy these panels here. You do have to make these if you have a rot in this area, and I think the same goes also for this panel here at the inner part of the wheel arch, especially the bottom there. I'll have to remake this. I think they call this a D post, and there is a D post panel which goes where I'm shining the torchlight. I do have that, and that also has the clips which hold the spat panel which goes on the back. Rear wheel arch, just come back to that. You can see that's quite bad. I do fortunately have, I was very lucky, I do actually have another one of these panels which I again got on eBay. I believe it's one of the original panels. It's quite old by the looks of it. It has an old sticker on it, so it's like probably a 1960s panel. S&G Barrett, I believe, used to do a panel, a complete wheel arch, and I think it was quite expensive. I think it went into the realms of six to maybe £700. I was very fortunate. I got mine for about £75. I think now they only do this panel in repair sections. So I'm going to replace this side anyway, and if the other side's just as bad, I'll have to do it in repair sections. And then I'll move forwards. Just open the door. Right. And then, so you can see the further new inner sill going further into the front of the car. And there's the repairs I've had to do to the floor pan at the front. The floor pan panels don't match very well with the original impressions in the floor, but I mean you don't see that. It'd be nice if they did line up perfectly, but they don't. So that's there. A lot of this area was non-existent when I got the car. There was not a lot left of it. Let's come outside. That doesn't shut very well. And if we come down to the front footwell, I can probably turn the torch off now. All of this here as well, all of this panel here, pretty much to where my finger is, this was all non-existent. None of this existed. I've had to try and make this from photographs. You can't buy any of this as far as I know. I know definitely you can't buy that, because I've looked for this. You can't get this panel. The outer sill I have, and that will be the next thing to go on. And if we come around the front of the footwell, I'll just show you another panel that you need. Will be fitting at some point in one of the videos. I believe they call this a splash panel. Let me just put that down and zoom out a little bit. I can't zoom out much more than that. This is a splash panel, and this goes in here, and it stops all the water going up behind the wing and into the door pillar there. I guess the A post, I guess you'd call it, in there. Let's get the torch again. So yeah, none of this was here. None of this here. None of this edge pretty much was there. I've had to make this edge. I'll try and make this edge again, and make this front here, at the edge of the floor, or the base of the floor, or the start of the floor pan, but the base of the scuttle panel.
And then if you look up inside here, you can see holes, and I think that, although I can't open the bonnet right now, there's things on top, but I believe that's where the bonnet hinge mounts, and that's gone through as well. So I think you can buy that panel, so that's another job I've have to do. The wing itself, I'll sort of show you how poor some of the repairs were, whoever did it. Obviously this stuff here is, as far as I know, the red stuff is the resin that you get with fiberglass filling kits, which is what you use to you put the fiberglass sheets down, and then you lay this stuff on top of it and it glues it all together. It's not really meant to be a filler, but obviously they've decided to use it, and there's quite a lot of it. When I actually knocked this back and took a hammer to it, a lot of that fell out. There has been some lead repairs by the looks of it, possibly there by the looks of it, by someone. But I think this is the only part I think that probably had a repair panel put into it, an actual repair panel. Everywhere else was just repaired with just patch panels and filler. Just move that back. If we have a look just under here, another issue I do have is where the inner wing meets the top of the chassis rail, where the two bits of metal are sandwiched together. It's not so bad along there, but as you work your way forwards, as you can probably see there, if I can get that in, it's actually disintegrated, it's actually rotted away. As we go forwards, you can see there that it's all blistered apart. Now, I've never obviously done one of these cars before. I am a novice, so I'm learning as I go. It's possible that these front chassis legs will probably have to be removed, and I'll probably have to make some kind of jig or something to make, or take a lot of measurements to make sure things go back where they should, or it may be a case of cutting the material along the edge and then trying to repair the edges that I have. But obviously, you know, it is a structural item and it's got to be strong. So, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But it does need repairing. This bit here is the like 45-degree angle bracket, which is attached. Get a better light on there. Attached to the front cross member, which you can probably just about see there. It goes across the front of the car. That needs replacing. So does the front cross member. This is a vacuum tank for the brakes. Fortunately that looks quite good, although it's the least of my worries, but they aren't exactly a cheap item if you need to buy one, but that looks like in good condition. In the back of the wing, the back of the front of the wing, it looks like the headlights around isn't too bad, so I'm hoping that's going to be pretty good. But coming down to the front, and as you'll see in a minute, I'll show you, obviously there's the crow's feet, I think that's what they're called. They'll need replacing. And then if we come out to the front of the car, yeah, you can see that this has been repaired by someone. It's not a repair panel, it's just been made out of pieces of metal, beaten in, and then a very, very thick layer of filler put on top. As far as I know, you can buy, I think, this area of the panel, I believe. And this edge here you can buy where my fingers are, because this is prone to rotting as well. So yeah, you can buy that. Or the other panels you get are the rear section. This is very similar to what looks very similar to what I've cut out. It's that section of the wing, and I think you get one that goes pretty much from approximately where my hand is all the way up to around here, as far as I know, and somewhere about there, part of the arch maybe. But otherwise it's a complete new wing, and I don't want to do that because that's a complete new wing replacement. But I don't want to do that because it's around £2,000. So I'll be using repair panels to get this wing back together. This is another area of problems with corrosion. This holds a little side light on the side. There's also this hole. There's also a little red indicator that goes in there. I do have those in an envelope somewhere. I think the idea is when this light's on it shines through the red, and it's like an indicator. You can see if the light is on. And this part here, this panel, is actually laid into the top of the wing, and you can just about see the impression of the edge of the panel there. It sits in like a I guess a trough in the top of the wing. And normally, obviously, those are lead filled in the factory. Someone's obviously repaired or replaced this, and they've just filled the gap, and you can see it's all filler blistering through. So hopefully, on my journey of restoring this car, I will be trying to learn old techniques, and I will get a new one of these if it needs it. And I'll be lead filling this back in and sort of learning some of the old techniques with the car. And that's it. That's the car, the project so far, and what I've done. And hopefully soon we'll get some videos on of getting some more work done. The next job I want to do, I don't know if I have the part here just to show you. It's somewhere. Oh, yeah, here we go. Let's have a look under here. What have we got under here? Well, we've got more parts and bits. This, just take this onto the bench, it'll be easier to look at. This is the front jacking point. So that will be one of the next things I want to try and get into place. I won't be able to fully weld it in position, but I'll get it to be able to tack it in, so I have it just roughly in position where I need it, and then I'll fully weld that later. I'd rather get the outer sill on first before I fully weld that, if I can. And the outer sill is that long panel there, and they make this, for some reason they do make this a slightly thicker gauge than the original. It's a little bit thicker by possibly, I don't know, 0.2 or maybe half a mil. It's just a little bit thicker than the original. Right, so that's the project so far, and hopefully I'll have some more videos soon of the work being done. Thanks.